Can I just say, wow.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to Kirsty Knits and Sews. This is a special stats and plans episode. Now, it's been a few years since I've done a stats and plans episode. 2023, I think, was the last one that I did, and I have to say I'm pretty excited to do another one. Now, it's the beginning of 2026. We're a couple of weeks in, and I have been I finished the 12 cast-ons. If you haven't seen that, I'll link the videos down below, so the full playlist. But I have a lot of plans, and my plans usually kind of work themselves out a little bit throughout January. But I think I'm ready to share what my plans are, as well as what my stats were from 2025, and a little bit about what I'm planning to track, what I'm not tracking, what I'm planning to make, what I'm not making, moving into 2026. Now, I have a knitting journal here. This is the one I'm using this year. Inside, it is just ruled paper. And so I will talk you through a little bit of what I'm tracking, how I'm tracking it moving forward. I do have my journal from the last couple of years here. And so I'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing and what I'm not doing to continue that. And then I also have this one, which was the first knitting journal that I ever had. And this is pre-printed that I bought from Middlestrip, who I will link down below. I don't know if you'll be able to purchase any of these at the moment for this year. I know she made one. I don't know if there's any stock left, but that is where I started my knitting journal journey. So today I will go through a little bit of knitting journal, what I track, what I don't track, how I keep up with it. My basic plan is do what I can continue. I don't like starting the year with a whole bunch of plans that just kind of fall away throughout the year. But obviously things do change, life changes, and so I try and start the year with what I can continue, but I'm also flexible if something happens that doesn't let that continue. Like I said, I've got stats from 2025, what I made and what I used. And I also have stash. Stash is a big one today. I will get into it a little bit later, but stay tuned. All right, so let's start with stats from 2025. What did I make and what did I use? So in 2025, I made 54 things in total. That was 8 jumpers, 24 pairs of socks, 4 hats, 4 shawls, 2 blankets, 2 dresses, 4 pairs of mittens, 1 shirt, t-shirt, 2 cows, and 3 other things. I think one was a bag, one was I don't even know, things that didn't fall into the other categories. That was 54 things total. Out of them, 18 were for me and 13 were for gifts. Sorry, 36 were for gifts. I haven't had a goal of knitting more for others than I knit for myself. I think the reason that I've done that last year is I've been making a lot of presents for Christmas presents, for birthday presents. People realize that I knit and that I like knitting, and they're starting to request things. And so I'm seeing that come through in my making. I love it. I love knitting for other people. I love that I have something that I can give them that is unique and special, that brings me joy to make and then joy to use. So I don't know if that's going to come through. That's not a specific goal I have for 2026, but it is interesting that I'm moving more toward gift knitting, and let's see if that continues or not. In 2025, I used 9,000. I didn't write it down. How did I not write it down? I just did some quick calculations. And in December, I used 1,087 grams. All up in 2025, I used 9,481 grams and finished 54 things in total. That's quite a lot. I did in December realize I was really close to 10,000 and decided I wanted to try and reach that. But it was kind of a stretch goal. It wasn't my main focus in December. And then obviously I had the 12 cast-ons, which started on the 26th of December. And so that kind of fell away as I started a whole bunch of new projects. Not even sorry. So that was pretty good, almost 10,000 grams. I don't have how that compares to previous years. However, in my new knitting journal, I am keeping track of things a little bit over the long term. So, maybe I wrote it down in here. I did. I wrote it down in here. Found it, guys. It's okay. So in my knitting journal, one of the things that I'm doing is I've made this stats page. I've just drawn up for 4 years in a row. Obviously, 2025 is last year. And I've written down what I've made, the 54 objects, what that breaks down into, and the total grams used. And I've just drawn that up for 4 years. I know that I'll probably use this journal for more than 4 years, but for right now, I thought that was a pretty good goal. I'm also in here, I have a page for blankets because I do have blankets that I work on that are much longer term than most of my other projects. And because I write my projects down every month, I didn't want to have to keep writing the blankets down. That has kind of worked for me in the past. However, I don't work on them as much because I don't write them down every month. So I've got a blankets page. That may change in the future. I'll just show you through my journal that I've got at the moment. I've got my 12 cast-ons page. This one is for 2025 and 2026. Next year, I'll have to create a new page, and that's fine. That'll just go somewhere else in here. And I also have a dream list. You'll see that it's split up into for me and as a gift, as well as easy and concentrate. I have a few things that I did not cast on as part of the 12 cast-ons that would go into the gift concentrate. I have some that would go into the me easy, really all of these quadrants. That's just to help me think through what are the projects I have on the needles. If I want to start something else, am I looking for an easy knit? Am I looking for a more concentrate knit? And I can choose from what I already want to start. Now that's not filled out because a lot of them will be gifts and I didn't want the people watching this to know what I wanted to make for them. So that one I'll fill out later. And then in terms of month to month, what I track. So this is how I've set out the pages so far in this journal. Because it's already lined, I've just drawn in extra lines that match whatever color washi tape I used for it. It does come ruled, and so you'll see that I have a line down the middle there. Now, I don't mind it. It's not my favorite, but I couldn't think of a way to set up this page that would have less room for the first column that I would use and appreciate. So I just decided I'll put it in. Some of them, you can see the line is really fighting for attention. Over here with the darker ones, down here, it's not fighting for attention as much. And so I think what I'll probably do is try and use dark colors for the majority of the things that I put in here. But I have put here, you'll see, skeins in, skeins out, finished, unfinished, grams used. That is a little bit different to what I did last year. And here is why. Last year, I tracked my grams throughout and I just said projects finished, grams used. This year, I have decided to go back to keeping track of everything in my stash. Wowzers, this is a big project. I spoke about it a little bit, I think on 12 cast-ons, maybe on a previous episode that I was thinking about it. It's a big project, but I did decide to do it. So if you're not aware what I'm talking about, this knitting journal that I got, this is the 2023 one. I also had the 2022 one. Brilliant journal, love it. One of the things in it was yarn stash. And the idea was you could write down everything you had in your stash, and then as you used it, you could mark it off that you'd used it, but it helped you know what you had at all times. I spent a long time in 2022 and 2023 filling out these pages. And what I realized was I have a lot of yarn, but also I had a lot of specific yarn. Like this is worsted DK, and I only had 1-2 pages of worsted DK. My fingering sock yarn went over 3 or 4 or 5 pages, like just insane amounts because sock yarn is what I used most. And I ran out of pages to write things. The first year I did it, I just put everything down. The second year, my sister was doing it as well, and she's like, I've sorted it into weights or whatever so I can find it easier, and I thought that's brilliant. So I did that, but I was still running out of room. So I was like, as much as I loved this and the ease of it, I didn't want to buy it again because I knew that it didn't have enough room for the stash that I had. But I also wanted something that could go over multiple years. Enter this book. Sorry, there's some ribbons, which are really helpful, but they're flying around at the moment. So what I can do with this one is, because it's a blank book, I can keep adding more pages. If I have yarn that I need to write down and I've run out of room, I can find more and write down more. So the way that I've ruled up pages for this is fingering sock, and you can see at the top, yarn stash, fingering sock, and I have space for brand, yarn, plans, meters, color, dye lot, and grams. Dye lot I was totally willing to just not put in until I started a project for 12 cast-ons last year, and halfway through the body realized the yarn I was using didn't match, and that I'd actually bought 2 dye lots of the same color. I think 7 skeins of one and 5 of the other. So I still had enough to finish the project because I'd started with the one for 7 grams that I had 7 skeins of. But, that one taught me that dye lot is important. And it's the second project that I've had that problem with, because actually the first time I knew that I had the wrong dye lot, but they didn't have any more of the dye lot I needed. The second time I was just oblivious to dye lot. And normally I don't care. I use hand dyed. I expect variation. This is commercially dyed and it was so obvious and it bugged me, so I ripped it out. But all that to say, I'm writing dye lot down now. And then I have it color coded. I have fingering sock with this fluoro pink. I have fingering not sock with a bit of a deeper pink. Then I've got worsted DK with orange. I've got sport and fluffy with a gold. I have a slightly more bright yellow, which is other, and I don't know what that one will be yet. Then I have hand dyed is this green, and I have things that I've bought, which is sparkly. Yes, I'm tracking what I buy this year. If you've been around for a while, you know that I don't normally do that, and I've stopped doing that for a specific reason. That is, if I track what comes in and I'm trying to get more out than in, then I stress buy. I go, oh, I've already bought all this stuff, I may as well buy more. Now, I'm not doing a no buy, nothing like that, but I do want to see what comes in, and not just what I buy, but what is given to me as well, because a lot of the stuff that I get is birthday presents and Christmas presents, because my family knows that I love yarn. And so I just want to see how much I'm actually bringing in every year versus how much I'm using. Not for I must have less than I buy or must have less than I'm given, but just so I can see if it is going down or if it is going up. Because at the moment, I feel like it's going up. 10,000, almost 10,000 grams last year is what I used, which is a fair amount, but I can't be certain that I did not buy or be given more than that. And here's the thing. I've started writing down everything in. So I've showed you the empty pages, but I have started writing down what I have in my stash. And I started by going through all of my whip bags. So over here you can see some. I've pulled all of my whips from everywhere in the house, and I've been writing down what yarn are in those whips, because when I finish it, I will cross it off and say it's used. This is something that I do. Everyone might be different, but I count everything that is an unfinished project as stash until the project is finished. So when I start a project, it doesn't come out of stash. It's only when I finish the project it comes out of stash. That means that if I forgot halfway through, I don't have to worry about stash amounts, all those things. But it means the beginning of the year, with all of my whips, it's been a long process to actually count and go through and figure out how much yarn I have. And I'm not finished yet, but we'll get into that in a minute. So what I've done is I've gone through all my whips here, all the ones downstairs. I can tell you how many I have at the moment. I have 5 blankets. Let me go back to January. I have 5 blankets on the go. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12. I've got 2 whips that I haven't even written down in my book. All right, so I have 32 whips, not including the 5 blankets. So 37 whips at the moment on the needles or on hold because I've stolen the needles for a new project. That's a lot of projects that I've gone through to write down what yarn I have. Some of them are purely scrappy, but most of them have had at least one skein of not scrappy in it. So I've written all of those down in here. as well as odds and ends that I had in my yarn stash. I'm not finished my yarn stash, but I've done some odds and ends bits. And I can tell you that currently, from what is written in this book, that I have got 19,205 grams of yarn. That is not all my yarn. Now, I'm not certain. I don't know if I had it written down here. My gut says that when I did this last time, I had maybe 23, 24 kilograms of yarn, which is not much more than that. And that tells me that I've definitely been increasing what I have over the past few years. I've got 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Oh, can I even? I have 3 of these giant tubs full of yarn, not including this one. And then I have more things, mostly knitted and on my bed, which is another. On my bed, I've got 1, 2, 3 swatter quantities, a blanket quantity, and maybe enough for 2 dresses, or a dress and a duster cardigan. It's a lot of yarn, guys. It's a lot of yarn. I don't have a problem having a lot of yarn. The reason I'm thinking this is feeling a lot right now is that we are in the process of moving, which means I'm packing everything up. And so when I decided I did want to write down everything in this book, that has meant unpacking, or at least accessing things that are in boxes that are packed and going through it. You're not moving quite as quickly as I expected, so it's just a bit of a hassle doing it this side rather than doing it in the new house. But that's fine. And I decided it is something that I would like to do now rather than waiting until we're in the new house. So that's what I'm doing. I'm keeping a journal of both what I'm making and the yarn that I have. When I use some yarn, I'm going to get like a pastel highlighter type thing and just cross off that line. Some of these, you will see, have a ×2. If it's a ×2 and I'm only using one of the skeins, then I'll just cross off the 2 and write 1. I would like to keep track of how much yarn is out of my stash, how many skeins are in or how many skeins are out. And so I might keep a record that as I cross something off here, I'll do a little tally of how many skeins that is somewhere. Because I can't go back and just look at everything highlighted, because there will be some that will be crossed off but not highlighted because it won't have used the entirety of that stash. So I do want to track, what did I say before? I do want to track yarn in and yarn out, skeins in and skeins out, how many projects I finish each month, how many projects I have unfinished each month, and how many grams I've used. Now, grams and skeins will not be the same. That's because I use scraps. I'm not counting minis as skeins. I'm just counting, if it's lace weight, I'll count 25 gram, like mohair things. 25 grams will be 1 skein. Fingering weight, I have some that are 50 grams, some that are 100. And then DK are usually 100, but I have some that are 200. I'm counting skeins. So that's not going to give me an accurate amount that I've knit over the year. But I do want to count how many I have and then count how much I use versus how many I get in. I'm also wanting to count grams out. That means everything that I finish, I weigh. That doesn't mean that everything I knit, I will have knit this year. I will weigh the finished weight. So if I've already got whips, like I have lots of whips, 37 I think we said, any whips that I have, I'm not weighing them to see how much I add to them this year. I'll just weigh the finished product at the end and count it. And I do that because I figure I have whips going into every year and whips at the end of every year. So trying to figure out exactly how much grams I knit isn't really worth it. I do also use different weights of yarn. A lot of it's fingering weight. I have some lace weight projects I want to do this year. I'm currently using super bulky yarn to make a few things. And that'll be, in 2 days, I'll have used 400 grams of yarn, which is not normal. 400? 600? A lot. It's not normal amount compared to how much knitting and how much yardage. But I don't count yardage. That's too much for me. I just count grams. And so sometimes I get a quick hit for how many grams I use, and sometimes it takes a long time to get some grams up. That's okay. Now, all of this talk about grams and stash and in and out, I just want to highlight something here. I knit because it's fun. I enjoy knitting. The reason I'm doing it is so I know how much I have, I know how much I use. The other thing that I really want to be intentional about this year is spending time on the projects that aren't quick. If I only ever worked on the quick finishes, then I would never get anything to a point where it would be a quick finish. I have a, Fair Isle dress that is completely color work on the body, and I've done half an inch on it. I want to work on that. That's not going to be a quick finish. It's not going to be a lot of skeins out of my stash at the end of the month, but I would like to work on it because I want to get better at Fair Isle. I want to make more things like that. And so in some ways, while I'm tracking all this, it's not about consumption. It's not about stashing down. It's not about getting my yarn stash down to 0. Definitely not. But it's about being aware of what I'm making, what I'm enjoying making, where I'm spending my time, and then where I'm spending my money. Because if I'm wanting to go into more 4-ply Fair Isle kind of making, then why would I be buying super bulky yarn? If I'm wanting to make lots of things that are weatherproof, snowproof, why am I buying superwash? So I'm trying to think through what I have and what I'm using. And that I have made purchases this year. Already, you will have noticed that in my little book, the purchases that I've made have been unsuperwash. It's been yarn to make snow things. It's been yarn to make like felted seat pad cushion things for outside. And then I did, because it was a super good sale, buy some baby pink yarn because my daughter loves that color and it's a brand that I like. And I was like, it's really cheap. It's enough for a sweater for her. I'll get it at the same time. So there's been one impulse buy among the very deliberate buying. So that's kind of where I'm going this year, is I want to be more deliberate about what I'm buying, but also what I'm using, and pair those two up a little bit more. I also don't have a local yarn store. A lot of what I do is I buy online, and that means that I see sales. That means that I do impulse buy. So I'm trying to buy for things that I need, but also to save my money for the times that I will be somewhere in person. I'm planning to go to at least one wool show this year, maybe 2. And so if I save my money, then I can purchase things at those places rather than buying things online that I may or may not like. There are times where what I buy comes and I'm like, this is not what I thought it was, and I'm not quite sure what to do with this. So I'm trying to limit that. Like sitting here right now, I'm like, that was an online store purchase that I'm not so fond of, and that is too. So being intentional about what I'm buying, tracking what I have, tracking what I'm using, tracking grams out as well as skeins out. I don't have a goal for I want to be under 200 skeins, under 100 skeins. I haven't counted them yet. I don't even have a total number for how much yarn weight I have, because I am tracking weight, yarn weight as well as yarn skeins. Ooh, that's a good question. Am I counting weight or skeins? Do I have to count both? Skeins in, skeins out, grams in, grams out? Maybe I'll do that. All right, so the other thing that I do track is what I'm making. And I do that on Ravelry. So every time I cast something on, I start a Ravelry project page for, and then I try and update photos throughout. I don't always have a finished photo of the object up there, but I do try and do that a little bit so that when I'm wanting information, that's where I keep it. I used to have this book here, this journal here from a few years ago, has things in there for keeping track of your projects. And I did do it when I was here, but I was finding I was double dipping between this and Ravelry. And I do find it easier to do that on Ravelry than the physical book, because if I'm doing something and the book's not next to me, I can still quickly update the page, even if I'm adding photos later. So I decided to keep that on Ravelry and not have a physical book where I'm keeping all of my notes. I do have another one that I used to keep where I kept swatches of the yarn labels, taped it all in. And I love the tactile nature of that, but I'm not ready to jump back into that. It was a lot more admin, I guess. And again, I want to do something that I can continue with. not something that I'm going to stop. So all of this is about yarn. Let's talk fiber for a minute. I started spinning a couple of years ago and I love it. One of my goals at the moment is to spin a little bit every day. And again, I don't have to. If I don't, nothing bad is going to happen. But I have been spinning every morning as I listen to the Bible, and that's been really lovely. I started spinning a grey Shetland quite a few months ago. I finished a big spin, maybe even it was my Alpine Bloom I finished, and I was like, I'm going to start this one because I'm super motivated to do a really fine 3-ply fingering weight spin with a Shetland. I'd never spun Shetland before. I'm like, I'm just going to do whatever the yarn wants, and the yarn wanted to be super thin fingering weight, 3-ply. Great. I got like a few grams into it and was so bored, and I just wanted something a bit more fun. I ended up putting that on hold and started spinning a green, like a bright green yarn, to see if I liked the yarn that was going to create, and I did. But then I put that on hold and kind of didn't touch my wheel for a few months. I came back to the green one and finished that off with my, spinning a little bit every morning. I finished it off in a couple of days, like spinning and plying. And I did do that 3-ply, I chain plied it. So I spun it all into one and then chain plied it. And I've now got like 66 grams of what I'm going to say is maybe a DK, but it's not washed yet. And then I started on the grey Shetland again. And I'm through 1/3. I'm a third of the way through the second third. And so I'm like, if I can keep up with the rate I'm doing, in another week, I'm going to have 150 grams of grey Shetland finished as well. That one makes me pretty happy. So I thought, if I can keep this up, just choosing a random thing out of my stash, I considered doing Spin the Bin again this year. I'm not sure if Sylvie and Robin are doing that this year. I considered joining in if they are. But I thought, you know what? I don't want a specific bin. I have so much fiber. I just want to spin. I haven't been spinning long enough to have a lot of fiber that I don't care about, that I feel like I have to force my way through. But I do have fiber that is special, that is lovely, that I would love to spin while it's still special and lovely before it becomes old stash. So I'm just going to spin whatever I want to spin. When I finish something, I'm going to pick up something else. And I did get some fiber that I hand blended the other day that I'm planning to do some drop spindling with, just so that I can do some while I'm at the table helping the kids with their schoolwork. Because I'm just really enjoying spinning at the moment. So that's one of my goals, is to spin a little bit every day. I think I would like to track my fiber somehow in this book. I have not figured out what that looks like yet. However, I did mention it. I do have hand spun in here. So once it stops being fiber and becomes hand spun, I will write it down and I'll write some notes about how I made it, 3-ply, chain ply, fractal, 2-ply, whatever it is. And so I'm trying to keep track of where I bought it as well as the colour of it when it becomes hand spun. I've only got 2 things written down. I have more hand spun than that, but this is the stuff that is part of current projects. So yeah, that's another thing that is kind of going through my mind, is if I'm spinning, the more I spin, the less time I have to knit, which is maybe why I didn't do a lot of spinning at the end of last year. But it is something that I really enjoy. So yeah, I'm going to keep doing that and making pretty yarn. Oh, the other thing I have here is acrylic yarn. Now, I have a lot of acrylic yarn, and I say I have a lot. It's probably not a huge amount, but I don't generally use acrylic, and so the amount that I have feels like a lot. And the reason I have it is that I'm making some blankets for my niece and nephews, and I say that I'm maybe 20% of the way through the first one. And so this box is full of yarn for that. I also have a project bag where I've got the yarn that I'm currently using, and then I have another box of random acrylic yarn that I have that people have given to me or that I've collected somewhere. I'm not counting acrylic yarn like this in my stash. Now, I thought about it. I'd gone back and forward this morning. I was like, okay, I'm just going to pull it out and write it down. And I was like, you know what? I just don't want to. And there's a few reasons for that. With my stash, if I'm using like a little bit for color work or something, then I'm not counting it as gone until half of the skein is gone. So for a 50 gram one, if I use up, 20, 30 grams, sure, I'll say that's out of my stash and put it into scraps. If it's 100 grams and I use 20 grams for something, I'm probably just going to keep it as a full skein in my book, and I'm only going to move it to scraps later, which for the record, I'm not counting scraps here. I'm not weighing them. They're just a separate kettle of fish, and I use them throughout the year. For the acrylic yarn, I have a lot of it on bobbins. I have some that I've already taken things out of. Some of these will be full skeins, some of them, or full balls, some of them won't be. But because I have a lot already on bobbins, going through and trying to figure out how I'm classifying it. Am I putting all of the black on bobbins as one skein, or am I just counting them as scraps or not? I just went, I'm not touching it. I know what it's for. It's for corner to corner color work, like graph tan kind of blankets. I will count grams out when I do grams out, but I'm just going to kind of treat it as scraps. And that's what I do for my other acrylic yarn. If I'm making a scrappy project like a dog rug or like a basket for storing stuff in, I'll tend to go for my acrylic yarn. The only thing that makes me want to count it as skeins is that when I've done the blanket, that would be a lot of skeins out. But again, I'm not doing this in order to get a lot of skeins out. I'm not doing this in order to get a lot of grams out. I'm doing this because I want to see what I'm using. And these blankets in my mind are kind of a separate thing, a separate pile. So I'm treating them separately. If I have acrylic, like I've got a couple of balls, I don't even know where they are. I've got a couple of balls of like a fluffy acrylic that I bought to make my kids' jumpers or scarves and things. That I'm including in here. It's just this. And part of that is I just don't want to spend the time writing down that many single skeins of acrylic yarn in my notebook. I don't want to give the room to it. I don't want to give the time to it. So I'm not gonna. All right. What else did I want to share with you today? I don't know if I mentioned this. I estimated how much space I would need for each one based on previous years. And so like here you can see my DK worsted. I have 1, 2, 3 pages, and then it goes on to the next one. This is fluffy yarn, and you can see I've already almost finished the page, and the next page is already other. If I've estimated wrong, that's fine. I have plenty of room at the back here that I can start adding more pages. I will keep them color coded as they are already so that I can look quickly and be like, oh yeah, that's definitely, lace, other, DK, fingering, whatever it is. But I'll just add extra pages, and probably if I add 1 page, I may add 2 or 3 just to, try and keep them together as much as I can. But that's one thing I like about this book. Like I have quite a lot of room to go. And so my plan is that I can keep this stash page going. This is really important to me because the amount of time it takes to write down every skein in a big stash like this is a lot. So what I want to do is I want to have this as a rolling stash throughout the coming years where I'm not rewriting every year what I have in my stash, but I can keep this as a record so that next year I already have the stash written down at the beginning of the year. Wouldn't that be brilliant? That means that highlighting to say I've used this up becomes really important. That means writing new stash in becomes really important because it would be very easy for that to slip out. So what I'm going to do is when I get new stash, straight away, I'm writing it into my yarn purchases. That is a complete list of everything that I've bought or has been given to me. You can see here I've got prices. If it's a gift, I'll just write gift. That becomes really important. Once I've written it in yarn purchases, I'm also going to write it in the yarn stash pages. However, these ones I have not put into the yarn stash pages yet because I want them to be added at the end. So once I've gone through these other tubs, written down what I have, these ones will then go on to the end of that. And maybe I'll just put a note saying, end of 2025, this is what I had. Then after I've added all the 26, I can write end of 2026, this is what I had. And as for like highlighting to say I've used this, I'm planning to use one color. Maybe this will work consistently for 2026. And then for 2027, I'll choose a different color. And that means that if I use a whole bunch of sock yarn in 2026, but then I do no socks in 2027 and I'm still buying socks, I can still see, I'm not really using any, but I've bought a lot, and do some of those comparisons. Information. So I'm trying to make it simple, usable, user-friendly, doable for a long period of time. And that is why writing them all down right now, it takes a lot of time, but I am doing it, and I think it'll be worth it for me to get this information. All right, I want to give you a number. I want to give you a number of how many skeins I have, how much grams I have, but to do that, I'm going to need to go through the rest of this yarn. All right, I have just counted the rest of my stash. Now, I'm pretty excited about this because I'm further through than I thought. In terms of grams, I have counted more grams than I have not counted. So that's a good start. In terms of skeins, I had exactly the same amount that I'd counted and that I'd not counted, which is, I think, just insane that I'm literally halfway through. But that's also really helpful for me to know that my whips and what I'd already counted, which is whip adjacent, let's say, do cover so much of the yarn that I have. And the yarn that I do not currently have in a whip, a lot of it I'm still planning for whips. Like I have plans for them. There are some things that I was going through that I was like, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with that, but most of it I have an idea for. The other thing that I've realized is that buying sweater quantities adds it up really quickly. Some of the yarns that I've been writing down, I have like 50 grams of 10 colors or 100 grams of 6 colors to make a sweater quantity. But some of them, I just have 11 50-gram balls is a sweater quantity. It adds up really quickly when you do that. So yes, it was nice to have a quick little flip through the ones that I haven't yet written down. But I have numbers for you. 36,250 grams of yarn, or 502 skeins, is what I currently have in my stash as of the beginning of 2026. I have already made a few purchases, but at the beginning of the year, that is what I had in my stash. That's a lot. It's definitely gone up from when I was doing this a couple of years ago. Back then, I was saying that if I didn't buy anything and I used only my stash, I would be done in 2 years. That would now be 4 years. I used about 9,000, 9.5, and this is 36. So 3 to 4 years, it would be done. The other thing I wanted to share with you is I have just finished the 12 cast-ons, which is why I have so many whips. And there's a couple of things that I wanted to do to kind of keep that energy going. One thing is I've been a little bit scattered over the past week since finishing the cast-ons to know what I should be working on. I've started 3 new projects since I finished the 12 cast-ons, and I'll get into that in the regular episode, which I'm hoping to record next week. But there is a lot of things that I have started and thinking about and just kind of going, which one do I go back to? So I really enjoy picking things out of this pot, and I thought maybe I could do that every month at the beginning of the month, pick a couple of things out of the pot to work on. I think that would be really fun. For the rest of January, though, I am going to do that, but I thought rather than pulling everything, I've still got the the tags from 2026 12 cast-ons, and I can make new ones for the 2025 12 cast-ons. And so I want to pull out a 12 cast-on that I can work on for a few days, focus on it, and then put it back over the next rest of January. So I'm going to do that, and I'll try and record bits and pieces of that and include it in my regular podcast. The other thing that I had someone mention to me, I think it was my sister. In fact, it was my sister. She said, hey, because you've still got the 12 projects, why don't you do one cast off, cast on, where every time you finish a 12 cast-ons from 2025 or 2026, I pull a new one out of the pot and cast on something new, and that can be a bit of motivation to finish. And I thought, that sounds really fun. I do have 12 projects still in this pot, and I do have a little list of things that didn't make the cut last year that I had considered putting back in. But I think what I'll do is I'll keep the 12 in here that I decided to do that I haven't started yet, and I will work on them so that I will finish, as I finish a 12 cast on from 2025 or 2026, I can pick a new project out of the pot. Now, I have already finished one in January. I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to do my little focus thing. But from now on, if I finish a 12 cast on, I'm going to have a hopefully mini vlog called Cast Off, Cast On, where I show you finishing my 12 cast on project and then starting a new project out of the pot. I think that'll be really fun. Hopefully I will be able to finish other things in the middle of that aren't 12 cast on, so I can still free up some more needles, because needles are still a problem. Well, that almost brings us to the end today. I have been sitting here thinking, do I want to set a goal? Set a number goal, set a skein goal, set a grams goal for the coming year. And all I can think is 10,000 grams. That isn't much more than what I did this year, but I think it would be really fun to have over 10,000 grams used. I'm going to put a goal as being more mindful in what I'm buying, and only buying online if there is a specific thing that I'm trying to do that I don't have something for. But otherwise, I'm going to try and use my stash and save my purchasing for when I'm at a yarn show. I would love, love, love to get my oldest whip finished, which is a mystery knit-along shawl that I started. I believe it's by So Knits, Suzanne Summers. I started it a while ago, before my 2025 cast-ons, and that's the only project that I started before my 2025 cast-ons, so I would love to get that one finished, and then all of my whips are from 2025 cast-ons and forward. Other than that, I'm just going to work on things. I think I will do the cast off, cast on series throughout the year as I finish 12 cast on projects. But throughout the year, I just do little podcasts every 2 to 3 weeks where I just sit down and share with you what I've been making. And I'm going to keep doing that. I love doing that. I enjoy the kind of knitting community that we have here. I love hearing about what you're working on. Which reminds me, if you have a way that you're tracking stash, any plans, goals for the year, I'd love to hear about them. Maybe I will add some more goals for my year. But generally my goal is enjoy my making, slow down, don't try and just be about stats in terms of how much grams used, how much grams in, how much grams out, but to spend the time spinning every day, to spend the time doing the slow things that I really enjoy, which I guess also means bringing back in some cross stitch and embroidering and those things that I really enjoy, that don't tend to get the look in because it's not the it's not written down in here really. This does help me focus a lot. One thing that I will say, because I'm writing them down every month, these stay in the forefront of my mind. That's when I started doing it, when I started a knitting journal, which was the Middle Strict one, but not this one, the 2022 one. It was the first time that I had every month written down what I was working on. And it really brought everything to mind. It just helped me focus in a whole new way that I'd never done with any crafting or any projects. I had written plenty of lists. I have lists about sewing whips, UFOs. I had lists of things I wanted to make, things of whatever. And they were always on pieces of paper and they always got lost. I did get a sewing whip book and I never looked at it, but because this one was every month, you write it down and you're writing down the current list. So every month you have a list of what you're actually working on. It just kind of kept everything focused so much more. So that's something that I'm really wanting to keep with this going forward, is having that monthly page of these are the things that I've started that I haven't finished. And then as I write it down, I look at it and go, oh, do I want to work on this? Do I want to work on that? I have to say, there are a lot of whips here. And for all I've been saying through 12 cast-ons, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. It is the first time that I've had to set up a double page as a regular thing for the amount of whips that I have. And so maybe I'll try and get that down to a single page again. But yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy working on these. I just need to pick which one I'm going to work on next. All right, I think, is that everything I have for you today? Yeah, I think that is everything I have. There are my 2025 stats, my 2026 plans, what I'm doing in terms of keeping a journal, and my current stash stats. Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed going through all of my yarn and figuring out what my plans are, sharing with you what they are. Like I said, I try and start the year as I mean to continue, but if I do find that I'm just really getting bogged down in trying to get grams out or skeins out, or feeling stressed about what's coming in, then I may just stop tracking, because this is meant to be fun for me. But I would love to start the year with a complete catalogue. And I say start, it's already January 17 as I'm recording this. But I would love to start the year with a complete catalogue of what I have, so that I can track it, not just this year, but in the coming years, as a rolling record of what I have and what I'm using. And maybe when this book is full, I don't know how many years I'll be able to get out of it, but maybe when this book is full, that's when I will do another full reset of my stash, writing everything down in a new book. Like I said, loosely, I would like to have less stash in the coming years rather than more. I don't feel a need to keep buying lots and lots and lots, because I have more than I can use in a year anyway. But I also recognize that it is really amazing to have stash when I'm inspired to make something that I can go pull, but also for the times that money is tighter, it is great to have something that I can use. So I'm not trying to de-stash, I'm not trying to sell it or get rid of it. I recognize it is a huge thing to be able to knit when I want to knit and have the materials to do that. So I'm not trying to get down to zero. I'm not trying to get rid of it. I'm not trying to just get it out of my house. I'm wanting to use the yarn that I have, whether it's a gift, whether I've bought it, whether it's what I was intending to buy, or something that is not quite what I thought, to find ways to craft and enjoy the things that I have. And that goes for fibre as well. I haven't even shown at all in this video the fibre stash. I only started spinning a couple of years ago, and that stash is also huge. But I am enjoying spinning it. And on my regular episodes, when I've finished a yarn or I've been making progress on a yarn, I will share that on my regular episodes too. So if you would like to join me in my crafting year, please hit the subscribe button, and then you'll be notified when I put out a new video. Like I said, they're usually every 2 to 3 weeks, and it's just me sitting down, pulling together what I've been working on and talking you through what that is, what progress I've been making, what things I started, what things I've finished, and occasionally future plans for what I want to make. And I will be doing separate videos now for cast off, cast on, which will be a bit more in my 12 cast-ons vibe of a vlog, where I talk about finishing one project, but also take you through what my next project is and starting that. Oh, so exciting. All right. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.